Okay, it has been confirmed that the Boeing 737-200 twin-jet is coming to X-Plane 12 anytime soon now. So before all the other flight simmers start streaming this, I figured out I might as well be the first one in X-Plane 11. I hope my viewers watching this will understand and be enlightened as to how to operate 737 classics, most particularly the analog gauges and the rudimentary autopilot over here. So to get started, I've already opened the doors and loaded the passenger weights according to my sim brief plan. And now the only thing left to do is to start the aircraft up cold and dark. And we are going to do that now. So we've connected the GPU and you can see the ground power light is available. First thing I'm going to do is test the battery voltage. First turn it on and see the battery voltage, which is about 22 volts, which is acceptable for our flight. We can now check the external power, which is 115 volts and 400 hertz. Tolerance is plus or minus 5 volts and plus or minus 8 cycles per second, so we are good. And we can turn the external power on. Okay, all the systems have come to life. And our bus ties are in auto, as seen over here, so we are getting the power to the buses. Having done that, we can now initialize our INS. First, ensure our parking brake is set to park, and we can now enter in our present position. So to do that, we turn the INS to standby, and we're on present position, waypoint 0. And to do that, I'm going to consult my chart over here. So we scroll all the way down here to the present position at Los Angeles Airport, which is north 33565. North 33565, insert. And west 118245. 118245. Insert. Let me just check again. North 33565, west 118245. Okay, that's all good. We can now turn our mode selector unit to align and get the INS to start aligning. We can go to status and we're still accuracy index on 9. So we have plenty of time to do our pre-flight checks. So we're going to start with the overhead panel and going to check. If we were to in real life be communicating with ground power, we would have the service interphone on. We can input the trip date and time into this thing. So let's say the trip is the first leg and the date is today's the 10th. Like so. Can do that. Now we can test our leading edge and flaps annunciator lights. Thrust reversers are guarded and normal. There's also an override option. Passenger oxygen is on normal. And let's turn the dome lights on. Get some more light into the aircraft. Okay, coming down over here, we can see our flight controls and standby systems are all on. Our yaw dampers are on, alternate flaps are off. Now Mach trim we can test. These are the spoilers, so yaw damper we can set to on, but there's no hydraulic power, so that light still remains off. Compass, we don't have to worry about all these. All our gyros and air datas are in the normal position. But remembering that air crash Copa flight 201. Coming over here, our fuel pumps, they're all off for the time being. We can put our navigation lights on, which are these ones. And position lights, I don't know if we actually, our logo actually. It's quite bright, so not needed at all. Okay, now coming up over here, we can test the remainder of our DC voltages. such as standby power, the battery bus, the battery itself, transformer rectifier 1, 28 volts DC, and some amps being drained from it. And we can also test the full travel of the needle as well. Normally, I think standard practice is to put the DC selector into transformer rectifier 1 and the AC onto Gen 2, but the engines are not on yet. Okay, standby power is set to auto. The CSD lights are on, obviously the engines are not running, so the rise also be 0. APU gens can stay off for the time being. Circuit breakers if you want to increase the brightness. Can now test our window heats to see that they all come on. And our probe heats, all the lights are extinguished, which is good. We'll pull them off for the time being. You can also do an overheat test as well. You can put all these off for the time being because I don't think it's that cold that we need them on right away. Engine anti-ice is off. Engine driven hydraulics, they are on. So when the engines kick in, electric pumps, they are off. Not to mistake anti-ice for electric, that has happened very recently. Now the cockpit voice recorder, we can test the travel of the needle, erase it. All our doors are open, so our door warnings are all good. Now coming over here, we can put our no smoking on, fasten seatbelts on, emergency lights, we want to arm them. Equipment cooling, either normal or alternate, whichever you choose. Coming down over here, we now need to set our cabin pressurization. Put the Gasper boost fan on. Can do an overheat test. Cockpit temperatures and auto. And now coming over here. Our flight altitude today is, 13,000 feet. So let's set that in. Our landing elevation today is, I've got little nav map open. And we can get the info. 17 feet. So let's put 20 feet. 1,000 feet for now. And also we do a check our status to ensure that the auto is working. Off schedule descent, check the rest of these lights. So we have the auto, which we'll be using today, the standby system, which you adjust cabin altitude and vertical speed, and also manual AC and DC. So I want to test the full travel of the outflow valve before proceeding, and we'll put it back to auto. There we go. Okay, so the overhead panel is set and checked. Coming down over here to the master warning, we can test our warnings, which are not very many. That's why I find the DC-9 and MD-80 a bit superior, because there's more warnings. We'll set up the AFCS now. So let's go to our little nav map. Our runway heading today is, 252. So let's set that in. (252), and we'll maintain runway heading until this waypoint, and then we'll turn towards the VOR, which is over here, the S Sierra Lima India VOR 115.70. So let's tune that in over here in our nav radios. 115 what did I say? 115.70. So that's our first VOR, 115.70, and the course we can adjust later on as we tune into it. Okay, some lights have now gone off. Okay, we can now put our doors back to close all the doors. Okay, so the doors are closing and we can now press on with the rest of our checks. We can check the mode enunciators, the autopilot modes, the outer, inner and lower markers, which are not working somehow. And we can also test the lights, all of them, all the enunciator lights at once. And the test is successful. Coming over here, we can set, let's bug in our acceleration altitude, which will be 3,000 feet. VORs, standby, it's okay. We'll test our quantity gauges, see that they roll back to 0. And also we have some more lights here we can play around with if we want. Altitude hold should be off. Pitch command, we don't need that for now. The rest of our modes are manual, VOR lock. And oh, this is not working. And we also have headings select as well. And our autopilot as well. Strange why the autopilot doesn't seem to okay, we're still on the ground, so that probably makes sense. Okay, our alignment accuracy has come down enough, we can continue with our waypoints. So looking at our sim brief flight plan, the first waypoint should be, let's see. It's actually the VOR. Sierra Lima India VOR, so we don't need to put that waypoint. After that, it's the ocean side VOR. So we can actually put this little waypoint in between. Let's put that one as waypoint 1, north 33289. Insert west 117419. Okay, that's checked. The second waypoint is ocean side, which is a VOR. Let's put it anyway, that's okay. North 33144. Insert and west 117251. Insert. Waypoint 3 is, let's see, waypoint 3, let's pull this one. Which is north, 33023. Insert and west 117200. Insert. And finally, let's put the last waypoint. But actually by then we'll be on radio navigation. So there's no need. Only 3 waypoints. Down to 0, ready for nav. There we go. The ready nav lights are out. The loading is checked. Nav mode mix. Let's start to get the APU going. So to do that, we come over here to the APU master panel and hold it at start. The APU low oil pressure started, but should extinguish now as the engine spools up. I mean the APU, that is. And I can let go of the master control. So the APU EGT is rising. And when it does, I'll quickly verify the integrity of the APU before connecting it. Okay, so what's next? The APU is done. Actually, I should have done an APU fire test before starting the APU, shouldn't I? Let's do that now. Overheat test, APU detection in op. And the fire test is successful. And the rest of the tests are successful as well. Okay, that's all good. So that should have been done before starting the APU. Apologies about that. Now we'll just check the APU bus. I'm in APU Gen 115 volts at 400 Hertz. We can now connect the APU. So the APU is connected. External power has been tripped off, so we don't need it. So we can come over here. And remove it. And let's remove the air cart as well, because we are going to use APU air. So to do that, we open our APU bleed. Our isolation should be set to open, because APU, as you can see, only supplies air to the left hand side pack. So if the isolation is shut, then you won't get anything on the right hand side, and see the right hand side is falling. So now we can put our packs on. Our engine bleed should always just remain on only. Now the pack's on, the left and right duct pressure goes down. So if we didn't have our air cart, we would be supplying APU power and air to the passengers like that. Let's see if there's anything else that needs to just be checked before we start. Our yaw damper test and engine oil quantity test. Anti-skids, they are normal and guarded. Auto brakes can remain off for the time being. Can test our gear lights. Test the first officer's side. Hydraulic pressure and quantities are checked. Let's do a GPWS test.
Pull up. Wind shear. Wind shear. Wind shear. Terrain. Up.
Test the rest of the lights.
Sink rate. Pull up. Terrain. Don't sink. Too low. Terrain.
Okay, so let's begin to start the engines. So we're going to put the beacon on.
Terrain.
And
Light slope.
collision strobe.
Bank angle. Bank angle. 150.
Let's put the anti-collision. There's no beacon, is it? Okay,
10.
no problem.
500.
And let's put our fuel pumps on, which have fuel. The center pumps, they don't actually have any fuel, so they're not needed. Fuel heat can remain off for the time being. Crossfeed shut and center pumps off. Okay, time to start the engine. So what we do is we turn the packs off. And there we go, we are more than 30 psi for engine start. So we are going to push back and start the engines. Door warnings are off. Doors are shut. And we can now begin the pushback. So let's go to the ground handling window, and okay, first we have to release the brakes. And let's push back. Let's see. Let's check our map. Let's push back. It doesn't matter actually. Let's try left.
Try OK, push cart on the way.
Good. Okay, let's start number 2. Set to ground start. N2 is pulling up. Let's ensure throttles at idle. Fuel levers at cutoff. Okay, 20% N2. Let's introduce the fuel. Okay, engine number 2 is running. Let's start number 1.
Here we go.
There we go, 20% N2. Let's introduce the fuel. Engine number 1 is running, and the start relight selector has gone back to off. Okay, we don't need the APU anymore, so what we're going to do is turn the APU bleed off. Engine blades are taken over. Put the packs on now. And let's put the APU master. Before we do that, we need to actually close the gen buses for the engines. So close those. They don't actually do it automatically, because I'm used to the other modern aircraft to do that. Even the DC-9 also can do it automatically. Never mind, so APU gens are off, and now APU master can go to off. And is spooling down.
Okay, I'm clearing now.
Okay, now that's out of the way, we need our takeoff data. So we're going to take off with flaps 5 today. So we can also put our electric pumps on for the hydraulics. Flaps 5 we can set now. And also we need a trim of 5.09. Speed brakes, they need to be armed for takeoff, so let's see if I can. A bit tricky actually to do this. I don't actually have any control bindings. Let's put the parking brakes on just for now. Transponder we can now set to TARA. Actually, we didn't actually test it. We can test it first. We don't actually have the modern one. And it's TARA squawking to 200. And that is it. Water brakes we need to set for our rejected takeoff. Let's set to medium then. And finally, let's finish up with the overhead panel. Seatbelt signs are on, no smoking. And the pitot heats and the window heats can go on now. Everything else is set and checked. We can now test our generators for our DC AC meter to Gen 2, DC meter to TR1. Fuel pumps all okay. Let's put our taxi lights on, runway turn off lights on, and our landing lights on as well. Okay, our V speeds are 132, which is V1. 132, a rotate of 134, a V2 of 139. V2 139, and flaps up by 190. So let's set our speed bug to V2 plus 10, which is 149. There we go. Okay, so V1 is 132, rotate 134, and V2 139. With a V2 plus 10 or 149. Flaps up by 190. It's not actually letting me adjust the rest of the speed bugs, never mind. And now we can put our INS to ground speed as we taxi. Everything else is set. And finally our autopilot. So runway heading 252, we can put our course also to 252 for the time being. We want to use our GPS so we can track the SLI VOR, and we can then adjust the course of that. Tune nav. GPS heading. Okay, we'll figure the rest out. We can go in heading select mode for the time being. And finally, is any AFCSM in any altitude select anywhere? Let's have a look. There is none, okay. There's just altitude hold and pitch command. We'll pitch initially say 15 degrees and we'll figure out the rest from there. Let's move this over here. Let's start taxiing now. So let's advance our throttles and start moving. Finally, our pressurization just before our takeoff, we need to set to flight. And now the outflow valve starts to close and pressurization starts. And an EPR of 2.15 we must take note of. So let us set that over here. It's already set. And that corresponds to an N1 of 97.4. Decimal 4, sorry. Let's do a flight control check quickly. Switch to outside view for better visualization. Okay, now we'll turn onto the runway. Oh yeah, there's an altitude selector here. So let's set that to say 10,000 feet for now to remind us of our when we need to start accelerating past 250 knots. There we go. And let's apply takeoff thrust. 3, 2, 1, now. Stable. Takeoff thrust set. Airspeed indicators alive.
V1.
V1. Rotate. Positive rate. Gear up. Okay, let's go to our thrust reduction, EPR 2.0. Let's pitch for speed for V2 plus 10. Okay, our acceleration height, let's start to nose over and let's maintain 250 knots and flaps up. After takeoff checks, landing gear up, lights off neutral, the flaps they're up. Let's retract the landing lights. And now let's pitch for speed. And trim. Okay, so we want to start turning towards our first waypoint, the VOR. And why don't we set our autopilot to engage and go to IAS hold at 250 knots. There we go, IAS hold. And now we'll track our waypoint. We've already tuned it in, adjust our course deviation, and now our heading according to match the course.